Hello and welcome. Thank you for coming to today's Atticus Advantage webinar. Is your practice ready for the Double Your Revenue Challenge? My name is Mike Wells. I'm a resource advisor with Atticus. If you're not familiar with us, I'd like to give you a little bit of background information before we begin. Atticus was founded 30 years ago to provide in-depth, ongoing support and accountability programs for lawyers and law firms that help you increase your gross revenues and your personal income, reduce the stress and the number of hours you spend in the office, give you a greater sense of career satisfaction, and give you more time to spend with your family and your personal interests. The kinds of attorneys that we work with, solo and small firm attorneys, the managing partners and leaders of firms. We also do collaborative work with legal associations, holding programs with them, teaching some CLE courses. And we consider Atticus a lifetime relationship from when you start your practice to when you are ready to move on from it. Now, the services that we offer and the products that we offer include our monthly webinars, one-day and half-day workshops, quarterly in-person group coaching programs, individual coaching, and of course, a lot of content, including our books and videos. Now, I'd like you to ask you to bring out a pencil and paper right now, because you'll probably want to take lots of notes. And this session is interactive, so be prepared to be unmuted if necessary, if you have a question and we have to call on you. And Steve, our participator, is very eager to speak with you. So speaking of that, Steve Riley is our presenter today, and Steve is the creator of the Double Your Revenue Workshop. He helps attorneys with you in terms of getting you unstuck and getting you through a breakthrough in processes about self-discovery and how you're running your practice as a business. He's a shareholder in Atticus, which again is the largest practice management company in the nation. And he specializes in working with solo and small firm owners. Steve, thank you so much for leading today's presentation. I know that the audience is going to get a lot out of it. And without further ado, take it away.
Thank you, Mike, and good afternoon or good morning, everyone, depending where you're at, I guess, or I guess in this case, good afternoon. Welcome to this webinar called Is Your Practice Ready for the Double Your Revenue Challenge? And this is one of the more interesting webinars I get to lead. I really enjoy it because one of the things that we have to help our lawyers do is to be able to think bigger about the growth of their practices. It's easy in most firms to do incremental improvements, 10% improvements, profitability improvements. You can do some decent things in most law firms fairly easily. But when it comes to really having a breakthrough idea, you have to challenge yourself to think bigger. And the Double Your Revenue Challenge is really that. It's a workshop designed to help you think much bigger than how you're currently thinking about your current practice. And usually when we talk to lawyers about, are you ready for the Double Your Revenue Challenge, this is typically the three biggest concerns that most lawyers express. Number one is I'm too busy already. I don't have time to go through 2 times the growth that I currently have. And 2 times the growth means I'll be twice as busy, which really leads to the second one. Are you trying to kill me? If I get twice what I have today, then I feel like I have to work 10 times as hard. And usually that's a lawyer that's running a really difficult practice. That practice at that point in time really has the lawyer a lot more than the lawyer has the practice. That's usually a lawyer that's practice is out of control. So consequently, they're much more inclined not to want to grow their practice. If they've got bad clients, they're stressed out, they're working really hard, they're not making any money, or not making the money they think they should be making, the thought of having twice as much of that is miserable to them. So you got to check in and see how your head shows up or what shows up in your head and the voice in your head when you think about, am I ready for the Double Your Revenue Challenge? Well, number one, if you're saying, well, I'm already too busy, then you might be right where you need to be as far as thinking about it. But if you're thinking, oh my gosh, twice of what I got now, I'm already too busy. I don't like my clients. I don't like the work that I'm doing, and I'm kind of freaked out as it is. Then the practice that you have today is really not going to be perhaps the practice that you want to have tomorrow. And you may look at the W revenue process as a way of thinking bigger about certain areas of the practice that you love and thinking about quit doing some of the practice that you don't. So for example, when I was actively practicing, I've done this workshop since I created this workshop. I created this workshop almost 20 years ago. And I went through a jump of doubling my revenues over about a 5 to 8 year period. So I doubled and doubled again, then doubled again, then doubled again, and a couple of years later doubled again. And my friends were asking me how I did it. And so basically we created the workshop as a methodology to explain it. Well, during that process of doubling, I would notice practice areas that were not profitable or were modestly profitable but very complicated. So in my practice, one of the areas that was lucrative and one of the areas that was complicated was estate planning was lucrative, guardianship was complicated. So guardianship fees were low, they were court regulated, we would get cut by the judges, social workers, case managers all the time, and the clients were very hard to deal with. So when we were doubling, one of the things that we did was we got rid of the bad cases and the bad work that was unprofitable. It's very hard to do that if you don't think there's more money somewhere else. And so sometimes the W revenue process helps you look and say, where can I actually make more money doing other things and get rid of some of the things that are pretty miserable to me. So that's one of the things to consider as you look at this, as you say, are you trying to kill me? Just know that the practice that you have today without any changes will be the practices that you'll have, a year from now. So if your practice is miserable now, it's going to be miserable a year from now without any form of change or any form of sustainable change. That's just the way it's going to work. Number three, is the W revenue worth the time and the money? And that becomes something that you've got to determine for yourself. For me, I really have three goals. One, determine if you're ready. And we have a scorecard to help you think that through. Two, to introduce that scorecard, the W revenue scorecard, to help you compare your current performance against what we consider suggested practices of firms that are looking to take on the W revenue. And three is to consider if there's any other way that we could perhaps support you in growing your practice. Now, here's my first thought. And this is something that probably hit me after a couple of years of teaching the workshop and really spending time with lawyers that were successful in growing their firms 2 times or 3 times or 4 times or 5 times even. And this is probably one of the more profound realizations I've had in teaching the workshop for 2 decades. The practice that you have today is directly because of the thinking that you had yesterday. So the practice that you're living in was something that you thought about years ago and dreamt up and worked towards. To have a new practice, the one that you're dreaming about in your head, you must change your thinking today. Otherwise, you're going to have the same practice tomorrow. And this is one of the most profound things that I've noticed over the years, is that lawyers will go, well, I want to have a practice that does this and a practice that makes me this kind of money and gives me this kind of time off. And then we talk about, well, you got to make changes to, you got to make some changes to get there. And they're like, oh, no. I want the result. I don't want to make the change. I don't want to make the changes. I just want you guys to get me the results. And that's the equivalent of hiring a personal trainer at a gym and saying, okay, here's your money, help me lose weight. Okay, good, here's what I want you to do. The trainer will say, here's what I want you to do. I want you to exercise and I want you to follow this diet. And you're like, oh, no, I'm going to keep my diet and I'm not going to exercise. But because I paid you, I want you to lose weight. It doesn't work that way. Nothing in life works that way. I mean, think about it. Nothing in life works that way. So if you really want a different practice tomorrow, you've got to change your thinking today and think about what you've got to shift to build the practice for tomorrow. And it really boils down to 3 things. Number 1, your business skills. So you have to look at what your business skills are today. And if you want to have a practice that produces 2 times the revenue that you have today, you've got to shift and change your business skills. And those are business skills, could be habits, could be just knowledge how to do different things, and it could be practicing your existing skills to make you more effective. It could be management skills that you need to be more effective at, or marketing skills. 2, your marketing, time management, business, and management skills today are really the keys to growing your practice tomorrow. And 3, to grow your practice, you've got to change those skills, habits, and most importantly, you have to change your thinking. Otherwise, the only way to grow your practice is to work more and charge more, which will produce incremental improvements. It won't produce any form of breakthrough thinking. And that's probably the most interesting thing about teaching this workshop over the past 20 years, is that the most profound thing you have to be open to is to change your thinking. And you know, really what the workshop's about is shifting, helping you choose different ways of looking or choose different ways of thinking about your practice. So that's the fundamental takeaway for me at the very beginning of the webinar. After teaching the workshop for 2 decades, the practice that you have today is a result of thinking that you did yesterday. The practice that you have tomorrow will be directly correlated to the thinking you're doing today. The same thinking produces the same practice. That's the way it works. So if you want to change and grow to a different and bigger and more robust practice, or more lucrative practice where you can take more time off, you have to make changes today that are sustainable changes that will work for you. Now, with that being said, here's what we're going to look at. These are, in my eyes, 8 core elements that I will look at in a law firm that is anticipating moving forward with the Double Your Revenue Challenge. So if you're like, you know, I'm going to take on the challenge and we'll take on the workshop, these are probably the 8 core elements that you've got to think through and score, and 6 of these will basically be talked about during the workshop. And so we can spend some time on these in greater depth at the workshop, but the truth is these are probably the 8 core elements. And why do we do this? Why do we assess these elements? You know, Peter Drucker, who's probably one of the greatest management consultants and thinkers of the past 50 to 100 years, said if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. And if you can't truly know in your own assessment if you are improving, if you don't define what success looks like and track your efforts and track your results. So what we did is prepared a scorecard that particularly gives you the ability to think that through from your viewpoint and our viewpoint. Now, if you're going to grow, and I know some of you are existing clients because I looked at the attendee list, and some of you are new to us, and if you're going to grow, you're going to have to think about how there are critical skills to help you leverage growth. So you got to think about how will you do that? How will you make those changes? And over the years, you know, in the past 30 years of working with lawyers, we've really realized to grow a firm, you've got to hit 4 critical business skills, and typically simultaneously, not one at a time, but you try and work on all 4 skills simultaneously. The first one is time management. And the time management is probably the most critical skill to start to work on, because if you're running at full speed and you do the Double Your Revenue workshop and you have no time to come back and implement what you learned from the Double Your Revenue workshop, it's going to be a waste of time and money for you because you have no room in your calendar. You have no room to make changes. 2, client development and marketing. This is absolutely critical that if you're trying to double your firm's revenue, you need more clients and better clients. So the skills of how to do that become critical. And I don't care if those are advertising skills or marketing skills. You know, it all boils down to the same thing. You have to improve how you're doing it. 3 is building a great team. Now, this is the distinction in my mind between a $1 million solo firm and a multi-million-dollar solo firm. You can probably get to $1 million of revenue with 4 to 6 employees as a 1 attorney practitioner, depending on your pricing and depending on your volume. Now, if you're trying to get to 2 to 3 million, which is a doubling, the core strategy to change will actually be developing profit centers inside your firm. And the profit centers will be driven by, quite frankly, great team members. You can't do it all. You just won't be able to. Think about it, because if you're going at full speed now, the ability to go faster is impossible. You just can't do it. It just doesn't make any sense to say, well, I'm going to go double my practice by working twice as hard. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't happen. So you're only going to grow by leverage and working with other people. And if you're looking for a doubling, you're probably going to have to do it through other team members, not you. And that's probably one of the hardest things for lawyers to realize, that sometimes what stops them from 2-time doubling the revenue is the fact that they haven't built a great team. They've got a mediocre team, they got a decent team, but they don't have a great team. So if you're really going to go for a doubling of your revenue, it's going to really depend on how great your team is at the end of the day. And then, whoops, I skipped one, sorry. And cash flow and profitability. Understanding pricing, understand profitability, understanding how you impact your profitability through, getting cases efficiently processed through your firm, pricing your work accordingly, knowing what work is unprofitable, knowing what work's most lucrative, and focusing on the most lucrative work can make all the difference in the world. Now, one of the things, sorry about that, excuse me, I went backwards. One of the things that I've noticed in teaching this is that lawyers will go through 3 phases of development. Usually when they start working with us, they start to learn how to manage their own focus better. They start to focus on their own time management, their own client development, their own productivity habits, their own ability to think about how to get more things done quickly and more effectively. And then they get to a certain point where they kind of cap out. They can't work any more hours, nor do they want to work any more hours. Then they start to develop a team. And then as they start to develop a team, they develop management and leadership skills, because it's absolutely critical if they're going to grow their firm. They need the management and leadership skills. And then they kind of build up to a point where they've capped out once again, and so their revenues kind of plateau. To jump to the next level, they actually have to move to managing managers. And what I mean by that is a good, there's a concept called span of management. Span of management means that a good manager can manage 6 to 8 people, maybe 8 to 14 if they're a very talented manager. But if you're a lawyer and you're practicing full time and you're also marketing, you can probably manage 4 to 6 very well. 8 too much. 10's almost impossible for most solo practitioners to do. So to do that, that means they've got to reorganize those 6 to 10 people to directly report to managers. So it wouldn't be surprising that if you've got a lawyer that has 10 people working for them as a solo, that the lawyer then breaks them down into 3 departments of 3 people each, and each department has its own manager. Then the lawyer then reduces their personal span of management to 3. They may have 9 employees, but they only have 3 direct reports. So you can see a lot of lawyers jump in their growth once they realize, they've got to develop profit centers and teams of people that other people manage inside the firm. So I see these evolutions, and I see lawyers come in with different mindsets around this. And if you're a lawyer that comes in and you have a heroic mindset where only you can do everything, you're probably going to be capping out at 4 to 6 people. If you're going to look at managing a team, you could probably get to 4 to 8 to 10. If you're 10 people right now and you're looking to get beyond that, then you're going to have to learn how to set up a management structure where you're managing the managers. And that becomes, these are all business skills. This has nothing to do with your ability to draft a trust or try a case or draft a pleading or a memo or anything else. This is all about management and leadership. And this is probably the biggest blind spot that most lawyers have when it comes to growth. In fact, I would say, generally speaking, it's the biggest blind spot that all of us as attorneys have when it comes to growth. So with that being said, let's do some thinking and perhaps some math and look at how this scorecard could impact your thinking. Now, once again, as you look at this, I want you to consider this jar of jelly beans. So if you're following along and you've got the screen in front of you up on, look at this jar of jelly beans for a second. If this is what your calendar looks like, jamming another jelly bean into your calendar won't give you 2 times the revenue, won't happen. To actually grow your firm 2 times what it currently is doing, you're going to actually have to have a breakthrough in your own time management and delegation. To grow a practice, you must make in your room in your calendar for protected time for new projects and strategies that will generate revenue. So you actually have to take a step back and say, okay, I need to create space. I've got to delegate certain things. I've got to go ahead and change pricing. I've got to hire a better team. And that's going to create the space in my calendar to allow me to work on the critical strategies that allow me to generate new business and new revenue for my firm. So this is one of the things that I need you to look at as we look at this. If you approach this, one of the most important things that you can do to go for a double your revenue inside your firm is to appreciate the first thing that you need to work on is your time management strategies. So if you're an existing Atticus client, work with your coach or work with your program leader on how to start to improve your time management. So when you walk into a double your revenue workshop, you've got some space. Those are usually the lawyers that grow the quickest and most successfully because they've got space in their calendar. They're taking advantage of the 4 cornerstones and they understand the 4 cornerstones as a conscious strategy for growth. Great. So let's find out how you're doing. Let's find out if you're ready for the Double Your Revenue Challenge. So our first exercise is that we're going to walk through the scorecard. If you haven't downloaded the scorecard, go ahead and download it. It's on your GoToMeeting, your GoToWebinar dashboard. You just click the PDF, download it onto your computer desktop, and you can work along with me or you can print it out. But either way, whatever works for you, just go ahead and get it in front of you. I'll give you a moment to do that. Wonderful. So what I'm going to do is walk through each of these scores and talk a little bit about them, or excuse me, each of the criteria and talk a little bit about them. Now I'm going to talk about how the scorecard works just for a moment, where it says criteria 1 to 12. 1 is your lowest score, 12 is your highest score. And we've broken down into 4 major categories. And you're just going to have to do a self-assessment where you think you're at. You don't have to share the score with anyone. This is a self-assessing tool based on what we see and what I've seen in lawyers that are successful in implementing the Double Your Revenue Challenge and successfully growing their firm twice what it's currently doing. So the first criteria we're going to look at is what I consider a business owner mindset. In running my practice, am I thinking like a lawyer or a business owner? So let's walk through the first category here. I'm too busy to waste time to strategize, plan, and think about my business. Every day is another game of whack-a-mole. I come in tired, anxious, and leave exhausted, hoping for a better day tomorrow. So this lawyer is living life like they're in the old Bill Murray movie, Groundhog Day. Every day is the same day, and every day they get up trying to do something different, and they get the same day the next day. This is really probably where I think 80%, if not 90% of the lawyers live. It's a really difficult place to be. And they usually say, I don't have any time to make change. I don't have time to plan. I don't have time to strategize. I don't have time to learn. I don't have time to think. Therefore, they're stuck with the same day that they have today, tomorrow. So you have to score yourself there. If you think you're there, go ahead and give yourself a 1, 2, or 3, depending on where you think you fall on that. The next one is I'm stuck. My revenues are flat, if not declining. My competition and my market are too vast. I can see that I must elevate my business skills to grow, but I'm not sure where to start. So this is somebody who's becoming a little bit more conscious. They realize, oh man, I got to make some changes. I know I've got to make some changes, but I'm not sure where to go. So score yourself if you think you're there. 7, 8, and 9. I'm ambitious and open to new ideas. I know growth is driven more by my business skills than my legal skills. My firm is driving more and more to a client-centric experience while I improve my business skills. I'm cautiously optimistic about the future. So this lawyer is cautiously thinking that in the future they may be in a really great position, but they're consciously aware that this is a client-centric experience. 10, 11, and 12 is usually where you're dealing with someone who's a very successful practitioner, both on the technical side and on the business side. And they go, I know I must challenge myself to grow. Every business must grow or die. I've mastered my time management and marketing, team building, and I have a great understanding of my numbers. I'm excited about the future. But they're doing the Double Your Revenue Challenge because they know they have to challenge themselves to think bigger and more powerfully about the future. So go ahead, put your score in, whatever you think it might be, to the right-hand column here. And I'm going to move to the next criteria while you do that. Time management. Am I making the best and best use of my time? That becomes the biggest question every morning when you walk into the office. Am I making the highest and best use of my time today? And the first category, or the first column, is I'm worn out. Every day is a barrage of interruptions, crises, and emails. I'm not focused on my highest and best use and can't implement changes. I'm trapped working at my desk. The next column, I get in early and stay late. I check email constantly. I'm overwhelmed and way behind. I want to focus on my efforts, but not sure how. I've gone without a true vacation in years. And when I say without a true vacation, I mean no emails, phone calls. Most lawyers, when they say they go on vacation, they really don't go on vacation. They just work remotely. They bring their laptop, they work part-time, and they work remotely. But they're still working. They're maybe in a better location, but they're still working. Next one is I can sustain long work sprints and balance my workload. I'm constantly looking for ways of improving my time management skills. In the past year, I've taken at least a 2-week vacation in which I did not receive any or send any emails related to my practice or receive any phone calls related to my practice. So this lawyer is doing much better. Their practice is running very, very well. They're doing a much better job. The next one, 10, 11, and 12, the highest scores. I'm focused during the day and feel like we're making progress towards our goals. I have control over my time and I can easily take 8 weeks off a year without checking email or phone calls. Well, this is a big standard because this lawyer's got their practice to the point where they're working and the practice is probably working off other people doing the work. Because if they can take 8 weeks off, this means that this firm is not as dependent on this lawyer as the firm in the first column on the far left. So it really is a lot more focused business at this point in time. So go ahead and score yourself on this one. All right, the next one is going to be marketing. How much am I driven by a desire to get great clients? The key here is great, not more clients, not miserable clients, not complaining clients who don't want to pay, but great clients. And you have to define what a great client is, what an A+ client looks like to you. Because if you're going out to get more business, let's go out and get more great clients, not just anything that walks in the door. So the first column here, column 1, 2, or 3 says, I'm too busy to market. And if I did make the time, I would not market. I'd rather just practice law and not work on growing my practice. This is probably where 90% of the lawyers we meet are in their thinking. So go ahead and score yourself here if that's what your head's at. Next one, I'm more reactive to my marketing than proactive, meaning marketing opportunities come to me, but I'm not proactively seeking or developing opportunities to generate great clients. So this lawyer is getting referrals from clients, other professionals, maybe from their marketing and advertising online, but they're getting work flowing in. They're not going out and shaking the trees for new business or developing new relationships. The next column, I know what to say, when to say it, and how to say it. I'm consistently marketing. I know there are some areas that our marketing could be better, but I have not had the time or capacity to work on these areas. So this lawyer knows what to do. And they know they can make some improvements, but they just haven't had the time to do it. And then the next one, the final one, is the final column, far right, is I have a strategic approach to marketing. I receive a consistent amount of high caliber prospects, magic words, high caliber prospects, and selectively take the best cases. My competitors are jealous and can't outmarket me. So this is where you have friends that say to you, yeah, I'm really annoyed because everywhere I go, I hear about you and you have become the gold standard in marketing. So go ahead and score yourself, see how you're doing here. The next, so we're going to go ahead and move on down the to the next one, which is foundation. And this one's a little different. Foundation to me is a little different. The foundation becomes how strong is your firm currently? In its current state, could it do 2 times the amount of client that it currently has? So let's score yourself. The low score is we are overwhelmed now. I'm working weekends and evenings. My staff's on the verge of burnout and complaining that they have way too much to do. The next column is we have ebbs and flows to our marketing and inconsistent cash flow. I'm hesitant to make changes, invest in the future, or hire anyone until my confidence about the future improves. So in this case, the lawyer has inconsistent cash flow. They're worried about the future, and they don't want to hire because they don't have confidence about their cash flow or the future. So they're kind of inconsistent. They're kind of caught in a trap here. The next column, 7, 8, and 9, we're in a growth mode. We have a strong foundation and capacity for taking more cases. I'm happy about our workflow, turnaround, caseload, and cash reserve. The future looks good. Next column, 10, 11, and 12. I have excess capacity for new growth and a written plan to increase revenue. I'm confident about the future. I manage myself and my team to peak performance. Now, the distinction between the high score here and the low score, hopefully for those of you that are paying attention to this, is capacity. Most lawyers work way past their firm's capacity to do work, and they usually get really bad work in the door. They price it poorly, they take on some bad cases, and they burn themselves out and their staff. And consequently, they have no capacity for good work. A really strong firm will always have excess capacity for higher caliber work, and this usually supports lawyers in their marketing. My experience is that ebbs and flows and cash flow are directly correlated to inconsistent marketing. And inconsistent marketing comes from the problem where a lawyer gets really busy, they work, they get caught up, then they realize they caught up, then they panic, they start to market, and then they get busy again, they quit marketing because they're too busy, they just do the work, then they realize they don't have any new cases, then they start to market again. And this is why they have inconsistent cash flow, because they're inconsistent on their marketing, they're inconsistent on their production. They have this ebb and flow, up and down cash flow, because they bring in work, get busy, focus on the work, and stop marketing. And so if you have inconsistent cash flow, it's more than likely that you're doing this type of behavior, which is detrimental to your growth and detrimental to your sanity, actually. But go ahead and score yourself on this, see where you show up on foundation. Next one is profitability. Are we making what we should be? And the low score here is 1, 2, and 3, so you have to kind of score yourself, obviously. And I'll say that this one is one of my favorites because it's common that I hear lawyers say this to me. I'm actually not sure what I'm paid. I don't know my overhead. I don't know what I should be making. I just come in, work hard like all the other great lawyers do. I just go in and work hard, and I don't know if I'm making money. I don't know if I'm losing money. I don't know what my overhead is. I don't know what my numbers are, but I'm just working my butt off. Next criteria. I don't feel like I'm earning what I should. In fact, I'm starting to resent working in my own firm and think it's not worth it. I feel trapped. I need something different, but I'm not sure what. The key word, the operative word here is resentment or resentful. If you start finding that you resent your staff or resent your firm or resent the practice of law, you have a significant practice management and marketing problem. It's your practice. The resentment is what you're feeling about it. You are the one that can change it. It's no one else's fault but your own. But you need to look in and see, in your heart and see if you're feeling resentment about it. If you are, score yourself 4, 5, or 6. The next column, I make a good living. As I look at my peers, I'm in the upper 20% income-wise. I have a nice lifestyle and feel comfortable. If there are ways to increase profitability, I don't see them, but I'm open to the idea. So score yourself if you think you're there. And then the last one, I'm making a great living. I think I'm in the upper 5% of the lawyers that do what I do, and getting an additional profit as a shareholder. So this is a lawyer that's already making a good living as an attorney inside the firm they're working for, which is their own, plus profits as a shareholder. I'm constantly focused on ways of increasing value to my clients while at the same time increasing profitability to my firm. And this is one of the things that lawyers get goofy about. And I don't know why we do this, but we get goofy about it. We think that we can't increase profits without taking something from a client. That's not how it works. That's theft. The only way you can increase profitability is by increasing value to clients. And so you can't get increased profits without increased value. Otherwise, it's unsustainable. And this is one of the funny tricks about life. If you're creating greater value, people are willing to pay it. If you're not creating greater value, people won't be able to pay it or won't want to pay it. So, there's a balance here. So sometimes lawyers think that, well, if I'm making more money or I'm creating greater profitability, I'm doing it at the detriment of my client. No, generally, you're going to make greater profits at the benefit to your client, and they're willing to pay you more because whatever it is that you're doing seems more valuable to them. So this is one of the interesting dynamics I've noticed over the years of doing this. Let's move on to the next one, change. How well do I, the lawyer, handle change? The first column, I have no reason to make any changes. There's nothing wrong with me. I am perfect. Everyone else needs to change. The problem is them, not me. Now, I have met this lawyer so many times, I don't know what to do when I see them other than nod my head politely and keep moving. Score yourself 1, 2, or 3 if you think that's what you're at. I would go with a 1. 4, 5, and 6. I know we need to make changes, but I'm not sure where to start. I'm confused and don't feel like I have the support from others around me to make changes. So this is a lawyer that's getting a little conscious that maybe there's an issue here and they know that there needs to be changes, not sure where to go. And then 7, 8, and 9. I'm comfortable with looking at making changes, but I do sometimes struggle with what to change and how to change it. So they're comfortable with making and implementing change. They're just not sure which ones to do. And then 10, 11, and 12. I understand that one of the things I must do as a leader is be constantly open to growth. Now, this is the first time I use the word leader in the scoring. In the first column, the low column, this person doesn't think of themselves as a leader, and the problem is not them. The problem is everybody else. The high score here is the person realizes that their job is to lead, be a visionary, set the direction for the firm, and they know if they're growing, they've got to support the growth of others around them as well. And so there's a big distinction. So if you're going to go for a double your revenue game, if you're looking to double your firm's revenue, you have to be in a position where you're going to lead change. You're going to navigate change. You're going to be the captain of the ship. You'll lay down the chart for change. You'll set the course for change. You'll communicate to your team why you're making the change, what the changes are, and then you'll sail the boat towards the changes. This is one of the things I think is the biggest blind spot for people when they get ready to double their revenue. They want to go ahead and double their revenue, but they don't want to make any changes. They don't want to be conscious about the changes. They don't be responsible for making the changes. They don't be responsible for navigating the changes. They don't be responsible for the consequences of the changes. So you have to score yourself on this. Where do you show up? Go ahead and score it, how you feel about change or what you think about change. Terrific. And we take this a little bit further on the next column, leading change, which I just introduced a moment ago. How well can I lead others in my firm through the changing circumstances? I have no reason to lead my firm through any changes. I hate change, and so does my team. We're way too busy. Just leave me alone and let me be a lawyer. Well, score yourself there. I'm known, whoops, I think there's a typo there. I know there's more to growing a business than showing up and working. I need leadership skills to help my firm identify what to change and how, and I struggle with her to start, and my team resists change. This is pretty normal, but this lawyer is aware that their job is to talk and implement change. 7, 8, and 9, my team needs me to chart a vision and help execute. They're open to change, but struggle with what, how, and why. I've successfully implemented some change, but I lack the business skill to implement all the changes I want. 10, 11, and 12. I'm excited, and our firm culture supports sustainable change. The big issue here for me is sustainable. My team understands change is necessary to stay ahead of the competition. I know where we're going, and I'm helping them get there. So here, on the first criteria, we talked about how well do you handle change. The second criteria here is how well do you lead change within your organization. And if you're going for a double your revenue, you've got to be comfortable with change, and you've got to be comfortable leading your team with change. Entrepreneurial attitude, which is the last one on this category, is how well do I tolerate risk? First column, I've risked enough. I want a guarantee. In fact, I am entitled to one. I went to law school and played by the rules. It's not fair that I'm not getting what I want. Yeah, it shows up like a big complaint. I would say that 70% of the lawyers that I meet at bar association meetings that are cold contacts, not Atticus clients, is people that are out there trying to practice and swinging at the ball and trying to do the best they can. This is where their head's at around entrepreneurial attitude. They're like, I've risked enough. I went to law school. I want a guarantee. Someone owes me a guarantee. In fact, I think I'm entitled. And there you have an incredible entitlement attitude. I'm a lawyer, therefore I should get something. It's not the way business works. Business is about a value exchange. You take a risk, you provide value to a customer, our customers, and they pay you for it. And it's a risky business. It may not be as risky as starting something else, but it's a risky business. But you have to understand there's risk involved. You're entitled to nothing, and there's no guarantee. Next column. What I have currently works, but I'm afraid if I change it, it'll be a mistake. My best strategy is to work a little longer and harder, and I will get ahead. My best strategy is to work a little longer and a little harder. I'll get ahead. This is a lawyer that will never double the revenue. This is a lawyer that will get incremental improvements, maybe 10%, maybe 15%. They better hope to God they stay ahead of their health insurance costs as far as gross improvements, because the health insurance costs are growing so dramatically that I think they'll eat up a 5 to 10% improvement. That's a whole other topic for us. And then 7, 8, and 9, to grow, I know my business skills must develop to take my practice forward. My legal skills got me to the game, but improving my business skills will help me win the game. This is a critical one. Most lawyers really think that to grow their practice, to double their practice, what they've got to do is do multiple improvements to their legal skills. Your legal skills are given. The legal skills are what got you in the door. It's not what's going to help you win the game. What's going to help you win the game is improving your business skills. The last one here is 10, 11, and 12. The last column is going to be, it is a business. To grow, I must take calculated and thoughtful risk. The key is calculate and thoughtful. I'm confident that with the right strategy, I know I can grow my practice 2 times. So go ahead and score yourself there. And what I'm going to ask you to do is go ahead and take a moment and total it up. Take the right-hand column and just go ahead and get your total score going so you know what it is. Terrific. Now that you've got your total score worked out, let's talk about what the score means in relationship to your practice and relationship to the Double Your Revenue program. or challenge, excuse me. If you're 1 to 3 score in that column, you acknowledge that there's evidence that you're struggling with an issue and you got poor results. You got no plan to improve. That seems pretty evident. 4 to 6, you're not failing per se. You're certainly frustrated with your firm's ability to create growth, and you need help implementing foundational growth elements in the business. 7, 8, 9, you're doing well overall in managing growth. However, you know there's still room to improve, and you're committed to raising the bar, and you're ready to launch a growth plan. So if you look like you're really strong in the 7, 8, 9 column, the third column, it means that you're probably ready for the DUI in the W revenue workshop. And then last but not least is if you scored in the 10 to 11 and 12 category, you're pretty much mastering growth at the level that you are, and you're ready for a much bigger game. And your confidence is pretty high because of your past results, and you're really probably in the realm of what we would consider best practices. So, as you look at this, what I want you to do is take in consideration what your total score was. And in a moment, Mike and I are going to ask you to anonymously put what your score is up there. So, Mike, you want to lead us through this? Would you mind?
Of course. So I'm going to put a poll up with your total scores today. And if you could, please choose one of the ranges there, and I'll share the results after a few moments. Okay, I'll give you guys just a few more seconds. So if you haven't chosen your range from your total score, please do so now. Okay, so Steve, there's our total results right there. About 80% are putting themselves at 49 to 72, and 20% from 25 to 48.
Mike, I can't see the poll. So
the audience should be able to see it, but I will
okay.
Close it out. So we're back on your screen.
Read it again.
Sure.
What was the poll?
80% of the replies were from 49 to 72, and 20% were from 25 to 48.
Got it. Very good. Well, good job. Good job, everybody. Thanks for doing the poll. I appreciate that. I appreciate it. And then let's look at the next exercise. So what I'd like you to do is look at the score, look at your columns, look at everything you did, and look and see which one you scored the lowest. So pick out the one that you scored the lowest. And I'd like you to write down for me why it's low. Now, I'm going to ask you to write it down because there's a science to that. As you write it out, it's going to actually engage your prefrontal cortex. And your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that's problem solving, will start to solve the problem. Unfortunately, your prefrontal cortex will not engage in problem solving, and it will engage in problem solving, but the most effective way to engage your prefrontal cortex in problem solving is speaking and writing. This is one of the reasons in all of our workshops, especially in the W revenue workshop, I have you write and speak, because it engages that problem solving. So go ahead and write out why. Why do you think it's low? And then I'm going to ask you to take my next question will be, what's the most important action you can take to improve the low score? What's the most important action you can take to improve your low score? Terrific. Now, the next exercise is, what score was your highest? And why? And if it's possible to improve the score there, what do you have to do to take action to improve the score? Or take action to protect the score, meaning that you make sure that you keep doing whatever you're doing to keep that score high. And take a moment to write it out, just like you would. The moment that you take to write it out will actually help you start to problem solve and think about it. Okay, great. So what I'm going to do is move to the next part. And if you're probably, if you're at the point that you're 80% of you were in a decent score range, I would say that you're probably ready for the double your revenue. If you're ready for the double your revenue, and you're in that 80 percentile with a higher score, I would say go for the double your revenue. The next one that we're teaching will be December 6th. I will be leading it. If you want to register for it, you can register through our website at atticusadvantage.com. And it is at the same time of our annual summit. So we're doing our annual summit Thursday, Friday. So if you are going to register for this, you can come to the cocktail hour at the summit and join us as a guest and meet some of our existing Atticus clients. And the next Friday, the Friday, December 6th, we'll dive into doing a double your revenue workshop. And the goal will be for you to leave by 5 o'clock with your double your revenue plan in hand. So if you've got a decent score on this exercise, I would suggest that you go for it. You got a decent enough number, I'd say go for it. The second thing, for those of you that are in the 20% where the score wasn't really what it wanted to be, I would probably have you be in a position where you do something different, which I'll explain in a moment. So if you are interested in coming to the Double Your Revenue workshop and you want to attend the summit, you can basically take advantage of that through the offer. The people that can attend the Double Your Revenue workshop, you can come to the Double Your Revenue and the summit. And Mike, I just want to make sure I got this right. They can do this for $495. Is that right?
That's correct. They can attend the first afternoon of the summit to see all of the presentations and enjoy the networking event afterward.
Got it. Mike, how much is the Double Your Revenue workshop?
The Double Your Revenue workshop is $12.95 at the basic level. On our website, okay, you can check, and there are 2 higher levels as well. Just for the workshop alone, it's $12.95.
Mike, I'm going to do this. Anyone that signs up for the Double Your Revenue workshop on Friday, if they do it by the end of this week and they're on this list of people that attended this workshop, they can come to the summit as my guest. I'm going to waive the $495. So all they have to do is register for the Double Your Revenue workshop, and I will give them a ticket to the summit, just for the people on this that attended this webinar and on this list.
So I want to repeat that back, Steve. You're saying anyone who registers, who's attended this webinar or listening to the recording, if you register for the Double Your Revenue workshop by this Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern, you're going to waive the $495 additional ticket price to attend the first day of the summit.
Yep, be my guest.
Great.
So that's the people that are on this call. If you're interested, Mike wasn't prepared for that, were you, Mike?
Working with you, Steve, I'm prepared for anything.
So you weren't prepared for that. I was just thinking about it. If you're on this workshop, you've done the summit, you've done this call with me, you want to come to the summit, you scored in the 80 percentile of, you responded to the poll, you in that 80%, I would say, come on. Let's go do the Double Your Revenue workshop together, and I will pay for your attendance at the summit. I will have that waived, that $495 waived. But I want you to commit by Friday. That way I know who we're dealing with. I don't want somebody kind of sneaking around the back tent saying, hey, I heard that you're waiving this. Nope, just for the people on this call. We know who you are. We know who you are when you registered, so we know who it is. So we can control that. If you're not ready, if you're in the 20% that scored low, I'm going to recommend that you not attend the Double Your Revenue and instead do what we call a practice growth diagnostic. And just kind of get assessment from one of our coaches or one of our client service director, what's going on, and take a bigger look at what's going on in your practice. The practice growth diagnostic does include a practice assessment. It really looks at what we consider the solo and small firm foundations of practice growth. It includes your DISC behavior profile, The coach that's doing it for you will give their analysis of what they see in here, and then at the end of the practice growth diagnostic, you'll take action on the three most important actions, the three most important impactful actions out of that call. It is a very modest investment, $295 investment, includes this survey, the DISC assessment, and a 1-hour teleconference. And if you want to do that, how you get started is just to go to our website where it says Practice Growth Diagnostic and click Let's Get Started. And you can schedule right directly online. If you want to learn more about that, Mike has a terrific video up there for you to listen to. Or you can email us directly at grow@atticusadvantage.com. And then today, if you do the Practice Growth Diagnostic, I'm going to give you the same deal that I gave everybody else. I'm going to give you a deal like I gave everybody else. If you register for a Practice Growth Diagnostic in the next 24 hours, we'll give you a copy of our book, Time Management for Attorneys, which is an $80 book. It's a bestseller, and we'll have that out to the mail to you as soon as you register for the Practice Growth Diagnostic. My partners, Mark Powers and Sean McNallis, wrote this book. It's fantastic. It's the best-selling book on time management for lawyers in the U.S., so it's a fantastic investment. The one thing I'm going to recommend that you don't fall for is what we call the 90-day Think About It program. And the 90-day Think About It program is where you go, let me think about this. I'm going to think about this. I'm just going to think about this. And just remember where I started with this with you. Thinking about it is a booby prize. Thinking about it is what you do when you intellectually want to procrastinate and you just don't really want to confront something to make a decision. And you procrastinate usually for two reasons. Number one, you're seeking perfection, making something perfect. Or two, you procrastinate because you're afraid of something. You're afraid to make a decision about something. You're afraid of how it's going to turn out. So procrastination is usually driven by perfectionism or fear of a negative outcome. So you might be afraid to make a decision because you're afraid that you can't make your practice perfect, or you're afraid that you might make the wrong decision. When it comes to the Double Your Revenue Workshop, it's money back guaranteed. And when it comes to the Practice Growth Diagnostic, it's money back guaranteed. So I'm going to eliminate your financial risk there. But I just want to encourage you to take some form of action, because if you're really looking, if you were really intrigued to come to today's conversation and look at how to grow your firm and ask, am I really ready and up for the Double Your Revenue Challenge? Then you're someone who's probably looking for change. You're someone who's looking for something beyond what you're doing. And thinking about that is not change. Thinking about that is procrastination at its purest form. So you end up failing because you never tried. So I'm just going to encourage you not to fall for a 90-day Think About It program and take some form of action. And with that, Mike, I'm going to go ahead and thank everybody. See if you've got any questions that you would like to have me respond to, or unmute anyone that has any questions in the last few minutes of our call today.
Sure. We have had one question typed in. This attorney says he's going to be on vacation in Tahiti on December 6th and wanted to know when the next workshop was. So first of all, I'm extremely jealous you're going to Tahiti in December. But our next Double Your Revenue workshop is going to be in February in Illinois, and it's February 27th. Now that one, we're co-hosting that with the Illinois Bar Association. We will have other dates in the first and second quarter, and we'll be releasing those dates as soon as we can. So if for some reason you can't attend the December 6th Double Your Revenue Workshop, but you are interested in attending a future one, please definitely reach out to grow@atticusadvantage.com, and we will have someone follow up with you. And that's the question we have typed in.
Great. So we'll give you an opportunity. If you've got any questions, go ahead and Mike talk about how to raise their hands.
Yes.
And if we don't have anybody raising their hands, we'll just wrap it up for today.
As you can see on the screen, you can use the chat function on your GoToWebinar dashboard to send a message to the event organizer. That's me, and I'll receive the message. And if you'd like that question to remain anonymous, please indicate so that I don't use your name. You can also click the hand icon if you'd like to have a question or comment, and I will unmute you and call on you so that you can be heard by the entire group. Okay, give it a couple more seconds. We haven't had anybody type in any questions or raise their hands. So Steve, I want to thank you for leading today's presentation and sharing with the audience the information about the Double Your Revenue Challenge and helping them prepare their firms for exceedingly significant growth.
Thank you, Mike, and thanks for hosting the webinar, and thank you everyone for attending. Have a great day.